Hello and welcome to the RAMP webinars. The purpose of these webinars is to help you complete your application to earn RAMP status. We are on component 8, which is around the school counseling core curriculum action plan and lesson plans. This one is worth 6 points. That's a pretty large amount of points for the RAMP application, so this one requires a good deal of attention. I'm Karen Griffith.
And I'm Mark Kranz.
A general disclaimer, we need you to always check the website for the most current rubric. It gets tweaked from time to time. The big pieces don't change, but it does get tweaked and adjusted in efforts to make it better. Even so, the same procedures that you will see us go through will still apply if there's a new rubric. We have taken the rubric and we tend to break it into bulleted points to make it very clear and specific about what you need to do, and you could follow that procedure on your own. Remember, the rubric is to help scorers award those 6 points, and it should guide your application and how you submit.
So core curriculum and action plans, lots of extra good examples in the Ask a National Model Implementation Guide on pages 117 to 132. I think it's key to remember that core curriculum is where you share all the work, all the lessons you do for all kids. So it's key that it's all kids. So if I'm doing a small group with 8 fifth graders, that's not core curriculum. If I'm doing a parent workshop that's really important, well received, that's not core curriculum. You must use the Ask a template, so you would go onto the website and download the Ask a Core Curriculum Action Plan template. And part of this then is once you list all your core curriculum, all the lessons, activities you do for kindergartners, for first grade, for second grade, one of those grade levels, one of those core curriculum units, you're going to pick 3 lessons and share them and tell us the entire story about them. One thing I think is really important to note on the core curriculum is even though you tell us the entire thought process about the core curriculum, which includes the data story, you tell us how many third graders received the lesson, you tell us that you would administer a pre-post survey to collect perception data, you tell us this is linked to helping kids understand the importance of behaving or attending school. Just because you tell us that for every core curriculum activity, we're not asking you to share and analyze all that information. We're only going to ask you to share the data story from beginning to end, the instruments you use to collect perception data for 3 lesson plans. So, you know, and the other piece about core curriculum in terms of not always sharing the data story.
Well, I think when we get to the, let's say the action plan itself is going to guide you along this line. You're listing every lesson, you're identifying mindsets and behaviors, you're making sure they're all developmentally appropriate, that all students get them. You use the Ask a template, and you're going to check every column, but the point of the action plan is that this is just the plan. You're not actually giving us any results. The action plan is just your plan. So 2 of those columns include perception and outcome data. So you don't have to give us the instrument that you would use in the perception data. You just have to tell us how would you collect it if you were going to collect it. Would you use a pre-post? Would you use a focus group? Would you use some random sampling for determining perception? And outcome data is always around achievement, attendance, and behavior. And there are some lessons where you might not have outcome data. All of your lessons are going to have process. Most are going to have perception, and some will have the outcome data. But we can see that a little bit more as we get into the plan itself.
So when you look at the core curriculum lesson plans, it's 3 lessons. And those 3 lessons should be linked to the vision, mission, and goals. You know, and you're going to tell us how the mindsets and behaviors were selected through the narrative. So you're not going to, when you look at the Mindsets and Behaviors planning tool, you're going to have to decide, you're going to have to prioritize which mindsets and or behaviors really drive this work, these lessons. Because you could easily say, well, they all do, because that's what the research tells us is important, that the students have all of these mindsets, behaviors. But you're going to select one or two, three at the most, to drive the lessons that you're sharing. Again, we're always looking at, are they developmentally appropriate? Are they going to allow kids to master the information? And then there's a detailed plan for evaluation. So you tell us the process, perception, and outcome data, and a follow-up plan. You're going to include the perception data instrument that you're going to use. You're not going to share the results. You're just going to say, here's the pre and here's the post that I used, or here's the exit slips that I used to collect perception data. And again, you must download the template from the Ask a National Model website.
So in addition to completing the action plan and submitting 3 lessons, you also have to do a narrative. The top part of this slide gives you the narrative verbatim as from the rubric as it stands now. We've taken that and we've broken it into bullet points to help you write that description of your processing around the action plan. So you're going to write a paragraph first explaining your rationale for your design and your implementation of your core curriculum. Core curriculums are unique to school buildings. This is your opportunity to explain why you're doing what you do and how you're doing it. And then you're going to talk about how the school counselor decided what they were going to deliver, to whom, how, and how each one was going to be evaluated. So it's an overall view of the action plan, and it's explaining the processes for how it was developed.
When you're looking at your core curriculum, action plan, lesson plans, this is your plan, so it's unique to your building. You're able to, in the rationale, communicate why this was a priority, why this was important. Only include lessons delivered to all. That's really critical that you keep that in your head. Not all lessons address the program goals. So you may have shared 2 program goals in the RAMP application, but when you look at the core curriculum action plan, it is not asking you to link those core curriculum, all those core curriculum activities to those goals. It's going to depend on your goals. You may share 2 closing the gap goals that may or may not include core curriculum as one of the strategies to address that goal. Lessons, and you may include lessons that you deliver in collaboration. So you may work with the health teacher to deliver signs of suicide. That's perfectly okay.
There are some high school counselors that have teachers and advisors. The counselors design the lessons, but they are delivered by teachers. Those can be included in the core curriculum action plan for high schools. In addition, for each lesson plan that you submit, you have to have the process data plan. But remember, almost all of them are going to have perception. Most are going to have outcome. All of them are going to have perception.
And I think it's important to know that if you're sharing 3 lessons from a unit, you know, those 3 lessons are all tied to the same process, perception, and outcome data. You're not creating a new survey or a new way to collect perception data for each individual lesson. You're viewing them as a unit. So you may do the pre-post, the pre-perception data survey before you start the lessons. You may deliver 5 lessons, 3 lessons, and then you do administer the post. So the lesson plans would have the same information, the same exact process data, perception data. They're all linked to the same outcome.
But your three lessons do not necessarily have to be part of a unit. You can have 3 standalone lessons, and that's fine too. Just realize that when it's part of a unit, your data story is going to be the same for every one of them.
So in the National Model Implementation Guide, we have a piece that talks about do's and don'ts. I think when you look at this, you'll you'll see that we've talked a lot about this. I think this is an excellent resource to use as a self-check. You know, are my activities addressing the three domains? They don't have to, but it would seem developmentally appropriate that lots of the domains are being, all the domains are being addressed. It would be, we would need to clearly explain why you're doing no career work with middle schoolers if that wasn't being addressed. Links, you know, to the mindsets and behaviors, so that planning tool really becomes an important part of the core curriculum action plan. We talked again about, you know, perception data and linking it to the outcome data. And outcome data means you link those lessons to attendance, achievement, attendance, or behavior. And there may be a few, as Karen has already said, that have no outcome data. Don't include small groups. Don't include the professional work you do for faculty, staff, parents. And really you need to make sure you're very clear about the difference between perception data and outcome data. So one of the things that will really hurt your application is if in the outcome data you say we're going to survey the kids and make sure they understand the steps required for post-secondary planning. That's great work, but that's not outcome data. That's perception data. So you really have to have in your head what the distinction between the two of them are, and the model and the implementation guide give you lots of information about both.
So this is an exemplar from middle school. And you can see the headings for the current action plan template. The lesson topics, the identification of mindsets and behaviors, your curriculum, your begin and start, end and start times, and then those last three columns, the process, perception, and outcome data. And again, this is your plan. So each row becomes one lesson. You can see that only 2 or 3, and sometimes even one mindset or behavior was selected for each. A big trap is to select all that apply. You need to be more selective about that. Your mindsets and behaviors, when used in the best possible way, drive your content and drive your perception data. If you have too many, that makes it very complicated. You can see under perception data that this is just the plan for how that would be collected. Most of these say a pre and a post. The 4th lesson down identifies an assessment that would going to be completed around learning styles. So it's just the plan. All of these are linked to specific outcome data. When you look at that, it's talking about meeting the promotion criteria. It's talking about administrative referrals for bullying, and it's talking about grades. So those are clearly achievement, behavior, or attendance related. Most of these are specifically achievement and behavior. But that's good outcome data, and that demonstrates the 3 types of data. The other thing that you need to make note of is that there's no requirement around the number of lessons per se, but they're looking for comprehensive programming. Typically, your elementary schools are going to have the largest document at this point. They do a lot of classroom lessons, so their document's going to be quite extensive. High school is going to be the smallest in all probability because they have less time and less access to the students during the day. So there's no guide around how many, just make sure it's comprehensive and matches your needs of your building.
So the pitfalls in core curriculum lesson planning, including other activities other than the lesson plans to deliver to all. So it does not serve you well to list parent meetings or parent presentations. And then we've talked about the confusion and the omission of the 3 types of data: process, perception, and outcome, and the selection of the lessons. I think it's important to think about when you look at that core curriculum example, there was lots that those school counselors could pick from, So pick the lessons that really are stellar, the ones that have allow you to easily tell the data story, share the instruments, the pre-post, and can clearly analyze the outcome data.
I think in addition to the selection of the lessons, we want to talk about you're picking lessons that really let you shine as a teacher and an instructor. You don't want the lessons that are just teaching kids how to log into their career account and complete lessons. That's something we all have to do, but that's not the best case. You want lessons that show you as an instructor or teacher being effective in communicating information to the students. So thank you for joining us. We hope that this is helpful. That's our intent.
And we want to just say good luck with the process.
Thank you.